How has historical redlining negatively impacted the reproductive health of women, specifically women of color? By Allison and Maddie. First off, we must answer the question, how did redlining come to be? In the 1930s, after the Great Depression, Franklin D. Roosevelt attempted to stabilize the housing market through establishing the Homeowners Loan Corporation. The Homeowners Loan Corporation allowed long-term mortgages with fixed interest rates to be established, which enabled most middle and working-class Americans to own homes. However, the Homeowners Loan Corporation also labeled neighborhoods based on the supposed quality of the area. This marked the beginning of redlining. The FHA made color-coded maps of all the cities in the U.S. and separated cities into 4 different colors. The neighborhoods that were colored red were considered hazardous and the worst areas to live in. Yellow cities, though a step up from red, were considered declining. Blue cities, which were the second best, were considered desirable, and green cities were considered the most valuable. The determinants of labeling each neighborhood were not uniform, but one key criteria was that neighborhoods with many high numbers of African Americans or other people of color were seen as hazardous. The Federal Housing Administration was directly linking the desirability of neighborhoods with racial occupancy, although there was no evidence that people of color would have defaulted on loans. Between 1934 to 1962, 98% of all FHA loans were given to white people, and even today it is much more difficult for a person of color to acquire a mortgage or loan. This caused companies that lend mortgages to disinvest or refuse mortgages to people in these areas since they were not seen as valuable, causing these, quote, hazardous neighborhoods to have perpetually poor infrastructure, living conditions, and exposure to environmental pollutants. This color coordination was not only to disadvantage people of color, but also to enrich white people. As these hazardous areas were deemed slums and undesirable, white people avoided them, further segregating neighborhoods and housing. Redlining suppressed social advancement in neighborhoods occupied by people of color by preventing opportunities to achieve a higher income. Even now, 60% of previously, quote, hazardous rated neighborhoods remain people of color. In redline areas, hospitals began to close, further decreasing jobs and the health of citizens. High rates of hyperincarceration have also been associated with redline areas and have caused many individuals to have limited access to employment, education, housing, and social services. The Fair Housing Act was passed in 1968, and this law banned real estate and mortgage discrimination, including redlining, although there are still everlasting effects. It is difficult for people in these communities to attain higher incomes, as shown by the comparison between a redline map of San Francisco in 1937 versus a modern map based on household income. Additionally, we can see that people of color still tend to live in the areas that were marked as declining or hazardous, as shown by the race key on the screen. Not only are citizens in these hazardous neighborhoods exposed to more environmental toxin, but there's a clear trend between higher rates of severe maternal morbidity and mortality. Maternal morbidity are health issues that occur from or are worsened by a pregnancy and negatively affect a woman's health. Maternal mortality is when a woman dies from childbirth. Multiple studies reported that Black and Hispanic women experience higher rates of maternal morbidity and mortality in historically degraded or hazardous neighborhoods than any other racial, socioeconomic, or geographic groupings. These findings may be a result of a lack of hospitals and healthcare, but are also caused by exposure to a variety of environmental toxins. Additionally, pregnant women that were exposed to higher levels of air pollutants experience higher rates of postpartum depression. Experiencing any form of depression, anxiety, or mental health condition can cause further health issues such as increased blood pressure, asthma, stroke, and many more. Additionally, when pregnant women are exposed to harmful toxins, this can impact the health of their child. Some examples include pesticides, lead, mercury, flame retardants, and many more environmental toxins. Since these neighborhoods continue to have less green space, more industrial companies, and overall higher exposure to toxic chemicals, both pregnant women and their children are more likely to experience health issues. This causes generation after generation to experience health issues that they can't consciously avoid. Some current efforts to repair historical redlining are the Justice Department's Combating Redlining Initiative, which has gained over $100 million for relief for these communities that have experienced discrimination from mortgage lenders and banks. Additionally, if you want to learn more about your city's historical redlining, you can do so through exploring the Mapping Inequality website. Thank you so much for listening.